Well, welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso, and today we are joined by the one and only Nina Radetrich. Currently, she is our EOS implementer, and we are excited to be exposing or introducing you guys to traction and what EOS can provide for you guys today. Nina, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Nina, give us a little bit about your background, because if somebody has been here locally, right, maybe they don't associate with EOS, they probably see a familiar face. Give us a little bit about your background and how you ended up as an implementer here.
So funny, because so many people are like, how did you go from what you did to what you're doing now, right?
Yeah.
They just can't make the connection. But actually, I feel like all of the experience that I have in my background really led me to this point. So I spent the better part of 20 years in local television news, both at the ABC and NBC affiliates here in Las Vegas. So I always tell people I was like the female version of Ron Burgundy, only less cheesy. So my hair did rival yours, Cam, for almost 20 years. Yeah.
Careful, Nina.
Yeah. Well, listen, I was the Paul Mitchell queen too. So
one. Okay. All right.
Is that one? Okay, good. Good. I'm trying to get them in early. So after, and when you're in television news, it's so interesting because it's very entrepreneurial. And I don't know that if people realize that, right? You come into a city where you don't know anybody, right? I came to Vegas. I didn't know anybody in Las Vegas, right? I came here for the job. And so I had to build a contact list. I had to turn those contacts into sources. I had to convince those sources to share exclusive stories with me, right? So when my son was born and I was ready to make a change in my life, I took that entrepreneurial training and I started a marketing agency. It's so interesting because externally on paper, that was a successful endeavor. Internally, I will tell you, it did not feel that way. It felt chaotic. It felt overwhelming. It felt like the business was running me. I had left television to be closer with my son, and I was working more than I'd ever worked in my life. Right. And so I always tell, it's so funny because I always tell people like what I would have given to have known about EOS then, because I believe it would have been a game changer for me, even as a small business owner, right? I had a small team. So at about the same time, I had an opportunity to join the leadership team of a mission-driven organization here, and they were running on EOS. And this was my first exposure, right? So I was recruited as part of their EOS journey. And when I walked in, I literally was like, like, where has this been? This system, this structure, this simple set of tools, right? Allowing really great people to just make a huge impact, to like increase their impact exponentially. So I was absolutely hooked. And I became the internal champion of EOS at that organization. And I knew that I just couldn't keep this sort of transformational experience to myself. I felt more in control of everything. And we were doing great things for the community as a result. So I thought, well, I got to share this with other people. So I followed the path of becoming an EOS implementer and now get to share the transformative power of EOS with amazing clients like you guys.
Yeah. Oh,
like me. Yeah. Nina, for those listening, give us what is EOS, right? We've kind of used that phrase a few times. Give us a little background on that.
So EOS at its core. So EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It is a proven process with a simple set of timeless tools to allow you to get a grip on your business, to run a better business, live a better life. And we always say that it helps you be better at three things: vision, traction, and healthy. So vision from the standpoint of getting everybody in your organization, or even if you're a solopreneur or a small business owner, getting this out of your head, right? Getting everybody on the same page with where you're going and how you're going to get there. Traction means instilling discipline, structure, and accountability across the organization so you can get closer to achieving your vision, right? Because we can plan all day, but if we don't have the structure to be able to execute on that vision, we're dead in the water. And then healthy from the standpoint of getting everybody to work together as a healthy, functional, cohesive leadership team. Because a lot of times when leaders come together, even in small partnerships, we're used to working as leaders, solo people, not on a team, right? It's hard. But as goes that leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization. And one day you look up and everybody's rowing in the same direction, right? They're all heading toward, achieving your vision. They're gaining traction on that vision because they've got the discipline, the structure, and the accountability in the organization to get there. And lo and behold, they're actually enjoying working together, right? They're healthy as a team. So that at its core is what EOS does. It's just a simple set of tools for orchestrating and harmonizing all of the moving parts of your business.
What was it that you think attracted you, right? As just being kind of a small business owner, entrepreneur, was it the building the vision piece, or was it the traction, or what was it that kind of drew you in?
I think it's the simplicity.
Really?
Yeah. And so EOS is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy, right? But the simplicity of the system, it provides a structure that does not overcomplicate things, because as you grow, complexity in your business increases, right? And you don't even know what's happening. Like, it's just happening around you. So EOS keeps bringing you back to a very simple set of tools that's going to allow you, if you follow the process and the system day in, day out, to start chipping away at where you want to go, right? You've built that vision. You have the tools now to get closer to it. It's not going to happen overnight, but you're chipping away at it little by little. And I think that's what I loved about it. A, the simplicity. B, being able to see incremental results that actually compounded over time into these amazing achievements that we didn't think were possible and wouldn't have been possible if we didn't have a structure behind it. I'm a shiny object person. So I love, like, I want to try that and I want to try that. Like, and I know that a lot of your audience is small business owners, right? And a lot of us are like that. We're ideas people. Like, we enjoy the chase of a new idea. EOS keeps you focused on getting the most important stuff done in your business on the regular. And it prevents you from going down those rabbit holes of shiny object syndrome.
You know what? I case in point, we've been working with you for, 9 months now.
Mm-hmm.
But we started looking at maybe expanding in, different areas,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe, particularly we're looking at, long-term disability, I think, is important.
Yeah.
And I think people should have it and kind of feel that we're, that I want to spread that message and let people know about it. But, as Nina, as you would kind of focus on us, is staying core to our vision, and not, even though there's some great ideas, but
yeah.
staying focused on your vision and not being sidetracked by these shiny objects.
Well, and there's a piece of vision, right? So vision is comprised of several things in the EOS model. One of those pieces, which is exactly what you're talking about, Anthony, is called core focus. And that is your organization's sweet spot, right? It's where your purpose, cause, or passion, your why for being in business, meets your niche, your superior skill, what you're good at. And your core focus, when you define it, that's the key, is to clearly define and articulate it. The key is to stay laser focused within that core focus. So you're always then working in your company's sweet spot, right? You're not, when opportunities come to you, you run them through that core focus. Does this make sense for us? Is this keeping us focused on our gold mine? And that's the hardest piece, because there's so much coming at us in business, but the core focus really does help you make good decisions around what to invest in, or what time-wise, right? Or even money-wise. It helps you understand what you should be exploring and what you should just say, not a fit for us, because we've defined our core focus.
I would say, even before EOS, we realized one of the advantages of having this podcast is the amount of opportunities that we are exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And let's land flipping sounds great. Let's do land flipping. All right, let's buy long-term rentals. What about short-term rentals?
Mm-hmm.
What about ATM machines or Amazon brand? And there was a time where we started kind of adding these because they make sense on paper, but when we started looking at, what our goals were, it's not just about creating businesses, making a lot of money. Family is one of our core values, and we kind of got distracted from the family. So that kind of helped us maintain a clear focus. And, I know the topic that we're going to try to stick to today is going to be vision. But before we do that, you had mentioned 3 things with EOS, one being vision, but then you
Yeah.
mentioned traction and health. You might want to just give a little summary of the other two, and then we can focus on the vision.
Yeah. So traction is about that. So let me back up. You can build a vision all day, but if you don't have the structure in place to be able to execute on that vision, all that work is really for naught, right? So we take a traction first, vision second approach to building out your vision, because we believe strongly that you've got to have the infrastructure in place, the accountability, the discipline, right, to be able to execute on that vision. And I think that's where people go wrong a lot of times with strategic planning, because we can get in a room all day and we can strategic plan till we're blue in the face. And we come out with a, 5-page, 10-page document that says all the things that we're going to tackle in the next year. But if you don't have a plan to be able to hold yourself accountable to actually hitting those goals and accomplishing what you want to accomplish in the next year, again, all of that work is going to be a waste of time. So the traction piece is making sure that we have that structure in place so that we can get closer to our vision. And the healthy side of things is we spend a lot of time as teams working on sort of the smart pieces of our business, right? How we do what we do, our products and services, our strategies and plans. We don't spend a lot of time on becoming healthier as a team, right? No politics, no confusion, no ambiguity, right? A united front with your leaders, right? And that's like the human side of business that we just don't spend a lot of time on. But you're going to get a lot farther if you are working together as a healthy, cohesive team than if you're not. So putting the time in on that is equally important. So those are the other two pieces of all of this.
Now, Nina, I can see how this could relate to a mid-size, or a small business. Now, a lot of our listeners, maybe they're a solopreneur or a real estate investor. Can some of these tactics apply to the solopreneur as well?
100%.
Okay.
So I am technically, right, as a business coach, as an EOS implementer, I am technically a solopreneur. I happen to have an assistant, an outsourced assistant, and she's fabulous, by the way, as you know. And so, but I run my business on EOS, and I could not do it any other way. So there are downloadable tools on eosworldwide.com. Many of them are free. Smaller businesses are probably not going to work with an implementer, and that's perfectly fine. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't download some of the tools that we talk about, right? And you shouldn't start trying to implement them into your business. That means that you should read this book, Traction by Gino Wickman, right? To get a full sense of the system. While I don't recommend, you can self-implement if you want. It's not as easy, but if you're a solopreneur, it's going to make the most sense for you, right? So download some of those tools and start implementing them into your business right away, because they'll make a difference.
A great segue there. And I'm going to back up. You just showed us that traction book, right?
Yeah.
So if you guys are out there, you guys are listening to this, stick around, because at the end, we're definitely going to have a giveaway that you guys will want to hear about. So make sure you stick around for that. But you just mentioned about self-implementation, but also that traction piece. I know we're supposed to talk about vision a lot, but let's talk about traction for a second. What is it? Maybe highlight some of the tools that are available for people. And is there one or two tools that you feel like, man, this is really a tool that somebody should be aware of? Because I know that we've implemented some of them, and I'll share that after you give your response here.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. Well, I know you're going to kill me because, the old news anchor trick, right? I'd love to hear some of the tools that are working for you, Cam and Anthony.
I will. I prefaced it by saying you answer first. I knew what you're going to do.
You're not going to allow it, are you? You're going to take control of the interview. Okay. All right. So I'm kidding. So in terms of the tools that I think are most impactful, especially for the solopreneur out there, two things, really three things come to mind. First of all, having a scorecard. So having a weekly set of numbers that you are looking at that truly give you a pulse on what is happening in your business. Typically, these are going to be leading indicators. They're not things like a P&L, right? They're numbers that you can influence on the weekly. If you're looking at them weekly, you can see that things are off track. You can actually make adjustments, right? 52 times over a year instead of looking at monthly numbers. That's the power of a weekly scorecard. So what are those 5 to 15 numbers that really tell you what's happening in your business on the weekly? So that's one tool. Another tool would be rocks. And these are essentially 90-day priorities, right? In our brains, we can really only focus for about 90 days at a time. So setting rocks, things that you've got, big priorities that you've got to get done over the next 90 days, really, really helpful to keep you on track. Now, again, that fits in with the vision piece, which I know we'll talk about in a sec, right? Because it's all got to tie in to where you're headed long-term. But you're chunking down that vision piece, how you're going to get there, into 90-day sections. And then the last thing is, I know you've experienced this. The one thing that people talk about all the time is the level 10 meeting. And this is a weekly meeting that you're going to have with theoretically your leadership team. Now, you're a solopreneur. Maybe you're like me, you have an assistant. So you and your assistant, an hour or 90 minutes if you need it, right? Each week you're going to get together. And there is something very special about this meeting format, because it gets down to the heart of what you need to focus on. It's not another meeting that could have been an email, right? It's not a meeting where we're like, what's the agenda? What are we talking about this week, right? It literally is same day, same time, same agenda, starts on time, ends on time. It is a very specific meeting, and there's a very specific meeting format, which I actually would love to hear from you guys, because when you implemented this, it's weird at first, right? Because it is different than what you would normally do in a meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to jump in there because I was the one kind of running that L10, right? Because you kind of divvy roles up and we have different roles. But when we decided who was going to run that, it was up to me. And at the end of it, you actually rank kind of how that meeting went. And it's called an L10 because you're supposed to like get a score from 0 to 10, right? And,
level 10, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The first week I got 3s all around. Right. So Anthony gave me a 3, Becky gave me a 3, I gave myself a 3. It was terrible. Right. We weren't on time. The agenda didn't get covered kind of in the order that we wanted it to. We weren't working our way through issues.
I tell you, Cameron, it hurt me to give you a 3.
Oh, it did not. You were busy eating grapes in the background, right?
You're right.
But I'll tell you what it did, man. It motivated me, right? I'm like, you know what? This is not acceptable. This has got to get cleaned up. And so you take the time, you go in there, you prep, right? You realize kind of what you need to get prepared for. And you come back the next week, and I don't know what I got the next week. It wasn't 10s, but maybe it was 7 and 8s. But, pretty quickly, we've been kind of rolling at 9s and 10s, right? Good. Throughout. Yeah. And so that feels good. But more importantly, man, we're actually getting through some of the stuff that we need to get through as a small business. And so in that meeting, number one is you're looking at the scorecard. And for us, man, we were tracking maybe like 3 things. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Things.
Yeah. We were looking at 3 things, right? For a couple years, that's all we would measure was like 3 things.
Yeah.
We started meeting with you, and I think we built that thing out to almost 20.
Yeah.
Right. And so now every week we go through and we look at all these KPIs, right? 20 of them. And we're looking at how it's going, how it's reviewing, and then we move on. And then also in that meeting, there's a whole section where you do issues, where you're talking about what's important. And as small business owners, there's always something that comes in that's super urgent. Right? Like, hey, it's got to get done today. And so one of those issues or in that issue section is you make time to talk about things that need to get discussed, but maybe aren't super urgent right there.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that for us, I think those 2 things have really, really been fundamental in us kind of moving forward just on what we're trying to get accomplished.
There's so much accountability. Oh, sorry, Anthony, go ahead.
No, let me just add, I surprisingly agree with Cameron here. What I'll just add a little bit. What is great is, as an entrepreneur, we have all these things that we want to take care of, all these issues or things we want to do. But now part of that meeting is we have an issues list. So we go ahead and put them on there. And I think that's allowed to lower my stress level, knowing, okay, I know this issue we got to handle, but we have a process where we are going to address it, which allows me to be able to focus on other things. And what I like is the accountability is, we're each in charge of certain numbers.
Yep.
I mean, one that I'm in charge of is we do count our YouTube subscribers and how many posts we have on social media. So I need to I'm held accountable every week. Am I hitting our goal? And so it makes me thrive with our team. Hey, we need to get some more of the social media posts because I have my L10 meeting coming up. So it's allowing that focus is allowing us to execute better.
Part of that, so that was what I was going to say, was the accountability piece, because you do have to face your peers and share with them whether or not those numbers that you're accountable for are on track or off track.
Yeah.
You're also sharing whether or not your 90-day goals, your rocks, your 90-day priorities, right, are on track or off track. And nobody wants to come into a meeting and be like, I didn't quite get that done, right? Like it is, so it pushes you, it creates that discipline, right? It's like built in because it's human nature I don't want to come into a meeting and say, I don't know why that thing's off track. I screwed up this week, right? You don't want to do that. And on the issue side of things, because there's a compartment for everything in EOS, you don't lose things and you get things out of your head and on paper and compartmentalized somewhere, right, in the organization. So you're not losing things, and that clears your head. It also prevents, if you're putting just issues on and you know that once a week you're going to meet with your leadership team and discuss the issues, it prevents hey, Cam, I'm just going to pop in your office real quick. I just wanted to ask you about this, right? The stuff that derails our day, those interruptions, I call them drive-bys, right? It prevents that because it gives you a place that weekly, we're going to discuss this already. I can just wait until then. It's very powerful.
I will say, Nina, that stopped some of Cameron coming and knocking on my door, but he still needs some mentoring. So it's not going to stop all of those knocks, but it is going to lower them.
I bet he's grateful that you're willing to mentor him, though.
Super grateful.
Yeah. We got that on record.
He thanks his lucky stars on the daily.
And speaking of thankfuls, I'm thankful for the traction piece, right? Is the tools, right? Is because everybody wants to have a successful business and you can work really hard, but unless you got those pieces of the tools that you can kind of work on and put in place, you just get spinning your wheels. And so that traction piece for us has been just amazing here in the last 9-10 months.
That's great. It's great to hear. And that was what was so game-changing for me that I wanted to share with everybody. The vision piece equally as important, but the day-to-day that this creates, the discipline that it creates, the structure it creates on the day-to-day is so powerful.
Okay, I'm going to call a timeout. This is the beauty of somebody watching it live. We originally were going to do vision, and we spent 22 on traction, which is fine. Should we continue focusing on traction and maybe do vision later? Or I don't want this to go more than 40 minutes.
I see.
Got more 15.
I feel pretty good about traction. You know what? You want to transition and start talking about vision? Yeah.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We get a little water break too.
Perfect. I like it.
Would you like to lead us back into traction?
I would.
Vision? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, just follow my lead, Kenny.
Okay.
Hey, Nina, you would appreciate this. This is what my daughter gave me for Christmas a couple of years ago. We got a little.
Stop. Oh, I need one of those.
Okay. Now that's the cue for the person editing to cut. So we got to, I'm just teasing. Okay. Okay. Let's refocus here on vision, Nina, which I do think is very important. But you tell us, why is vision important for a business or owner or investor?
Well, I mean, it really is hard to toil day in, day out if you don't know what you're toiling for. Right. Agreed. I mean, I don't mean to sound flippant, but it's true. And I think it's just this. I mean, I think back to my time as a marketing agency owner. Half the time I didn't know if I was focusing on the right things. I was just trying to push the business forward, right? Do anything that I could to fill the pipeline, right? Keep my people busy, right? All of that. And I don't know that I had an end game. And, you can do that for a year or two, right? You can run hard for a year or two, just trying to make it all happen. But if you don't at some point put together a bigger picture as to why you're doing all this, you're going to burn out and the business is not going to do what you wanted it to do originally, right? Usually people are after freedom, or maybe they want more money, or right, whatever it is that you want, you're not going to get it because you didn't clarify where you were headed long term. So I feel like it's just a lot of work. If you don't have that clarified, a lot of work for where are we going in the end, right? Do you relate to that?
Totally agree with you. I think that most solopreneurs, right, entrepreneurs, they start with a good vision, right? Where they, hey, I'm passionate about this. This is what I want to go do. I want to take it to people, whatever. And then I think a lot of times you start the business and you get sucked down into the weeds, like into the day-to-day grind of just getting this thing going. And it's really, really difficult to kind of pick your head up and maintain or to grab that vision again. And so having that vision and maybe having a coach or a mentor come in and pull you out of the day-to-day and not only get you back on the vision that you started with, but either expanding it, right, making it bigger is crucial. And I think that's one of the things that you've really helped us with, right, is we're really passionate about what we do, right? I feel like we're really good at it. But man, you asked us some really, really hard questions when we're getting clarity on our 1-year goal, our 3-year goal, and then our 10-year goal, right? And those were not easy to do. Is that typical from what you kind of see when you start working with somebody? Is they have a hard time clarifying that vision to begin with?
Well, I think back to your original point, Cam, because a lot of times it's just up here, right? I mean, you said when people start out, they generally know where they're headed, right? They know where they're going, but it's up here. It's not on paper. And when it's up here, it can get a little bit jumbled, and it's not shared by anybody else in your organization because they don't know what's up in here. So it is hard. I mean, that second vision building day that we spent together, I mean, that's the kind of the crux of 3-year picture, 1-year plan, right? We're starting to build that out. That's really hard because we're asking you from the EOS standpoint to have absolute clarity about where you are headed. We start with our 10-year target, right? Anything 5 to 30 years out, doesn't have to be 10 years, right? If that doesn't resonate with you, but we got to start with a big long-term target. What is that? Where are we headed long-term? And then we back into that by creating a path to get there with a 3-year picture. What's our organization look like in the next 3 years? And from there, then we create a 1-year plan. And then we boil that down to 90-day priorities with our rocks. So again, very simplified approach to creating that vision. That's really on the plan side. The vision side of in EOS is very much about who we are as an organization, what we love to do and what we're best at, that 10-year target, where we're headed long-term, and then our marketing strategy, how we're going to get there, and then that 3-year picture. That's really the vision side. When we bring it down to the ground, the traction side, the plan side is our 1-year plan, our 90-day rocks, and then our issues.
Okay, I discovered my mind is the opposite of my eyes when it comes to vision. I can't see up close, but I can see far away. But when we're doing this mental vision, I can see up close, but I cannot see far away. So that vision piece, well, I tell you, had to get me outside of my box to really be able to see farther than really a year. But how it's helped me is it's helped me stay focused, because I don't know about you, but for me, if I like to do things that I like to do,
totally,
and things that I don't like to do, I just kind of pass off.
Right.
And having that vision helped me realize I know this stuff I don't want to do. However, I need to do that to be able to achieve my long-term vision.
Yeah. So did putting it down on paper make it easier to tackle the stuff that you didn't want to do?
Yeah. Well, not only put it on, but it can't just be put on paper once and forgotten about it. It's something that needs to be refreshed and reminded in on the weekly. And what I try to do is on Mondays, I look at, our 10-year goal and our 3-year goal and our 1-year goal, just to help me stay focused in the week. And so just like you mentioned, Nina, there's some free resources with EOS that you can download that stuff. And you can, especially if you're individual, or maybe you're just starting out in real estate or starting your land flipping business or whatever it is, you can use some of these tools on yourself, and you write that down, and it can help you be held accountable. Or really what I've seen, a lot of people that are successful, they work in groups, whether it's a formalized mastermind or maybe like when we were doing some of this land flipping, the people that I saw who were successful, they got in there all like mini small groups, and they held themselves accountable. And this is something that could be incorporated in that as well.
So this, and I don't know if you guys can see this well, this is the Vision Traction Organizer. And so everything that we just talked about is right here. And it's in, it's in 2 pages. 2 pages. So your entire vision and your entire plan. And again, to your point, Anthony, downloadable on eosworldwide.com. Grab it's called the Vision Traction Organizer, or VTO for short. Grab that. There's enough in there, and there's enough online that you could get started on your own. You can define your core values, right? Who you are at your core and what you want from the culture of your business. You could define your core focus, your organization's sweet spot. You definitely can define your 10-year target, again, 5 to 30 years out. Your marketing strategy, right? Then you can define your 3-year picture. From there, you build your 1-year plan, and then you build your 90-day rocks, and you have a list for issues. I mean, it's as simple as that. And that is what I love about EOS, is we're not walking out of a vision planning or a strategic planning session with a 25-page document that people are excited about, but nobody really knows how we're going to make it happen. So with this, you've simplified your vision and your plan. And what better for solopreneurs, right, than to have a simplified 2-page document that has, and I've helped some friends just do this who are solopreneurs as well, right? Because just to help them think through, because you're probably not used to spending a lot of time doing this, but if you could spend half a day just building this out for yourself and then come back to it Anthony, you come back to it a lot, which I think is great. Even if you come back to it every quarter and just check it. Anthony's amazing, Cam. I guess that's what I was trying to say. No, I just watched how he looked at you. I caught that. I see everything. No,
oh yeah, he was eating up that compliment, wasn't he? He was like,
Nina's the professional. I'm just here to listen to her.
But the point is, you got to keep coming back to this, right? Because we don't just build our vision and then we leave it alone, right? We keep coming back to it to remind ourselves of where we're headed, because that's how we're going to get there.
Nina, I appreciate your sentiment there on what you're saying as far as, hey, this is simple, right? But I'm going to bring it back to what you said earlier on, where you said this is simple but not easy.
Yeah.
Because I think about our experience as we kind of went through this vision piece, and there's really kind of 2 things that stand out to me kind of in our progress, or how we kind of work through this. The first one was accountability, which we touched on a minute ago. Anthony and I, right? If you guys can't tell listening, is we're actually pretty good friends.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, let's clarify that.
We've always gotten along really well, and that's good, but it can be a double-edged sword, is because it's not easy holding someone accountable that you like. Right.
So you like me, Cameron?
Yeah.
No, just barely. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was something that we had to work through, as far as like, hey man, are you getting this done? Can I help you out? Like, what do we need to do there? That piece to it. But then also, I think we really struggled with our 10-year target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a hard time. I think we kind of put one out there, and we're looking at it, and we just kept looking at it, and we were not passionate about it in any way. Right. And you kept kind of asking questions and asking us to kind of build on this. And I see the value of having a mentor or having a coach there, is because, man, one, you're able to kind of break down the communication, identify it between Anthony and I on the accountability. But on the 10-year target, you're like, guys, I don't think this is it.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, this sounds great. It looks really good, but I don't think this is it. And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, I valued I want to make a statement on the value of having a coach there, right? Is because I think that we would have just moved on and completely ran over that little piece there. But you having someone else on the outside saying, hey, this isn't really it. And we sat and looked at it, and we actually came up with one that wasn't really about numbers. It was more about helping people, and it was a very intangible 10-year target. And I want to give you credit for that, is because I think you pulled that out of us. And man, we've got a 10-year target that we're really, really passionate about now. So thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, that was all you guys. I just asked the questions to get you there, and that showed up as an issue, right? The issue didn't. So, and that's the other thing that's so interesting about the EOS process, is that we hadn't identified the 10-year target as sort of not something you were excited about. We had identified something else as an issue. And as we started to dig into that other issue, what was deeper in that was not you guys not resonating with that 10-year target. So I think we uncovered that together. And I think that was a really rewarding journey for both of us, really, to kind of see you guys land there. The other thing that I have loved watching is you have learned to, in your own ways, because your personalities, you're both so nice. So in your own, don't let the sarcasm fool you, but you're very nice people. So holding each other accountable was really challenging for you. And so in those level 10 meetings, you were glossing over things that should have been discussed. And so you found a way to not do that. And you've just used, the EOS way to do that, but you almost had to be pushed to do that, right? Because it would be easy to be like, well, Anthony's got it, even though he says it's off track, he's got it. We're not going to dig any deeper. You actually pushed and are now helping each other stay accountable, which is good for the business overall.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Now, if somebody, if you're watching, we are live streaming whenever we have a guest, which not only can you see any outtakes, which we actually had one here earlier, but more importantly, you have the ability to ask questions and be a part of the show. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to make a comment. And if you want to know when the next one is, it's not on a set schedule. The only way to do it is either be on our email list or to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then we have those posted.
Awesome.
Nina, if someone reaches out to you, right, what's the expectation, right? What can they expect when they reach out and engage with you?
So in terms of working with me, or what do you mean?
Yeah, right. So if somebody's listening, right,
Yeah.
and they're like, man, you know what? I feel like I was you guys, 10 months ago.
Yeah.
Not having a clue what was going on, running terrible meetings, right?
Yeah.
But just wanting to get kind of a hold of their business, and right, like we said before, is those L10 meetings and all the tools that we've been able to implement. I know for me has kind of reduced my anxiety, right? I feel like I got a much better grasp on where our business is and where it's going.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that before. And so if there's a small business owner that's out there that kind of feels that same way, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So the best way is just, drop me an email, nina.radetrich@eosworldwide.com. And let's have a chat. Let's just see where you're at. Let's just figure out where you're struggling. And then if it sounds like EOS is something that you want to explore, we offer a free 90-minute, what we call a discovery meeting. It's called the 90-minute meeting, but it's a discovery meeting, really, where you get an opportunity to discover if EOS is right for you. And then, of course, if we are right for each other. So that is the simplest way to engage. But I like to, before we schedule that, I like to have a conversation to understand where you're struggling, where you're frustrated, what's holding you back, because there are some common frustrations that EOS really tackles.
Awesome. And if somebody reaches out to you, you mentioned a giveaway earlier. What do we got to give away here?
I've got 5 of these traction books. So, and this will give you EOS from top to bottom, by the founder of EOS, Gino Wickman. So the first 5 people who email me, nina.radetrich@eosworldwide.com, I will send you a free copy of the book.
See, another advantage of watching the live stream, because those 5 could already be gone by the time that this posts.
Could be.
One of the things I liked kind of about this approach is I felt like, I believe it was Gino that kind of came up with this, but he wasn't like, hey, this is my idea. I felt like he pulled from maybe several different resources that he felt was valuable. and then brought them together. Can you touch on that at all?
Absolutely. I mean, this is years. So Gino, years of really Gino's trying to figure out what worked best in small businesses. Gino himself was an entrepreneur, like since the age of 21, and he helped run his family business. In fact, he turned it around. And then when he sold, he really found that he was enjoying and was passionate about working with other entrepreneurs to truly figure out what was the right operating system overall, what were the right tools and disciplines that were needed to help businesses overcome this feeling of not having a grip on their business, the feeling of not being profitable, the feeling of having people issues, right? The list goes on and on. So he cobbled together a bunch of different systems that he saw that worked, and he put them together and created these timeless tools that are EOS, because these aren't tools that are, you're not going to be like, oh, this is a major breakthrough. It's not some digital tool of the future. These are timeless concepts and practical tools that have been around for a long time and are going to be around for a lot of years to come. Why? Because they work.
When I was introduced, I had a real appreciation for that, because I feel like that's kind of how we've gotten to where we've gotten, right? Or at least I'll speak for myself, is that, man, right, is I'm not coming in saying, hey, this is the best thing because I said it is, right? As you go through life, you have different experiences and you see things that work and you're like, man, I need a little bit of that.
Yeah,
right? I need a little bit of that. And so I appreciated his approach where he says, listen, we're going to pull from all these different resources to get something that's really, really good. So if you guys are out there, you guys are listening to this, make sure you reach out to Nina, get that free book, dive into kind of Gino's approach to this EOS, and just get exposed to it. So Nina, once again, where's a great place for them to reach out to you at?
Absolutely. Nina.Radetrich at eosworldwide.com.
If it was me, I would not know how to spell Radetrich.
I know.
But it's going to be in the show notes, so you can find that there.
Anthony doesn't count. He's good with numbers, not so much words.
Not so much letters and words.
Yeah, exactly. Nina, thank you once again. Really appreciate you just from a kind of on a personal level for helping us get a handle on our business and get this thing up and going, and helping us clarify our vision for where we want to go, but also for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Grateful to have you guys on board, and thanks for having me on the podcast. This was super fun.
You did great.
Yeah, our pleasure. Go make it a fantastic day.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
So stay on, Nina.